Find the derivative of y equals x to the 3 halves divided by g of x, then evaluate y prime of 4, where g of 4 is a -3 and g prime of 4 is a 6. Y here is the quotient of two functions, one which is known, x to the 3 halves, divided by one which is unknown, g of x. The derivative will therefore involve a quotient rule. The derivative will be y prime, or dy dx, equals the derivative of the numerator, so bring the power down and subtract 1 from it, I'll call it 2 halves, the derivative of the numerator times the denominator left alone minus the numerator left alone times the derivative of the denominator. I will call that g prime of x. And all of this is divided by the denominator squared. Now in the numerator we will have 3 halves, x to the 3 minus 2, which is 1 half, g of x, minus x to the 3 halves, g prime of x, all this divided by g of x quantity squared. So y prime, or dy dx, can be written as, we have 3 halves, x to the 1 half means x to the first power and square root, so we can always write that as the square root of x, and then g of x minus x to the 3 halves, g prime of x, all over g of x squared. So now we have y prime, or dy dx, we can evaluate y prime of 4. Y prime of 4 means to plug a 4 in for each of the x's, so we will have 3 halves times the square root of 4 times g of 4 minus 4 to the 3 halves times g prime of 4, and then that entire thing is divided by g of 4 quantity squared. So we have 3 halves times the square root of 4, which is a 2, times the g of 4. Now the g of 4 is found over here with this information. The g of 4 is -3. And then we have minus 4 to the 3 halves. Now that means the square root of 4 and then cube that result. Let's take the square root first. So that'll be a 2, and then we'll have that quantity cubed. And then g prime of 4, which again is found over there to be a 6. All of that divided by g of 4, which is a -3, and then squared. Now this first term, we have a 2 in the numerator and a 2 in the denominator. We can cancel those out. So we will have 3 times -3, which is -9, minus 2 cubed, which is 8, times a 6. All of this divided by -3 squared, which is a +9. So we have -9 minus 48, all divided by 9. Adding those, we have -57 divided by 9. Both of these are divisible by a 3. 57 divided by 3 is a 19. 9 divided by 3 is a 3. It won't reduce any further. I'll leave it as -19/3.